good. All right, we are live back on another hunt panel today. We are joined by veteran hunter, veteran archer, legend, big bear killer,
elk caller,
probably the most successful elk hunter I've ever met in my life.
urinates excellence.
Yeah, and just a straight up awesome dude. Muck Simmons. Simons?
Simons. Evening, fellas.
And as always, the very well-proportioned Lando. And myself, Kevin Toy. So today, on the panel, we talk about, does shooting 3D make you a better bow hunter? Muck, you're going to love that one. Survival techniques. One thing every hunter should know. This is one that kind of hits home to me right now. Taxidermy. Justifiable inflation or price gouging? I might have a thing or two to say about that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What to look for in a Bino harness? And I feel like this is the most fitting question of all because you two are probably the most knowledgeable bear hunters I've ever met in my life. Judging bears. Before we get going into the questions, guys, make sure if you want to get entered into win our monthly prize, comment below any topics, questions you have for the panel. If we pick your question or topic on the panel, you get entered into a monthly prize. This month is a Vortex Bino harness. Same one Muck wears on all his hunts. You'll see it in some of his videos on the Hunt Source YouTube channel. Yeah, so diving right into question number 1, I think we're going to start off with you on this question, Muck. Does shooting 3D make you a better bow hunter?
No, it doesn't.
Yes.
Oh.
Take that. Why? What did you guys have a bet on there?
Well, okay. I'm going to give a little full disclosure on this question. This isn't the first time the panel has talked about this question. We've actually had Mr. Pistol Pete on the panel, but because his audio was so bad, we couldn't play that. When we touched on this question there, Landon and I had differences of opinions on this specific question. Yep. Muck, you're with me. You're on my team.
So, I'm adding context to that, Kev, because I do agree, as we talked that over and milled that over, and we'll get into that in a minute. I said, right off the hop, I said, short answer, yes. For the only reason that it would give you a reason with some pressure to shoot your bow more.
Hey, Landon.
That does not make you better at hunting, though.
Landon, we still have our voices recorded for that podcast. So, okay, does 3D archery make you a better hunter?
Yes. So,
I'm going to let you tell your story, and then I'm going to tell the truth. Because we have it on, we got the evidence, buddy.
We got the evidence. I agree. 100%. So that was what I said was short answer was yes. At which point you're like, bullshit. And then got to the point of how does it make you? Well, aside from reps behind your bow and maybe the odd angle, it really truly doesn't. If you just go and shoot your bow, you're getting the same thing out of it.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, it definitely, the only benefit of shooting 3D to transfer to hunting is the reps. That's it. The kill zones aren't the same. Most 3D targets, they have like an 8, a 5, a 10, 11 ring. And typically they're not in the scoring ring or in the lethal kill zones on a 3D target. But more importantly than that, shooting 3D does not prepare you mentally or your nerves when an animal steps out in front of you. Like that's a completely different monster there. 3D, yes, if you're in a competition, you get competition nerves, but it's not the same as hunting. And like I've done it all in the sense that I've shoot 3D very routinely, but of course I hunt a lot, and the feelings are not even comparable at all. The reps, yes. I mean, you can't every time you shoot and practice, it helps you, but I would say, does it help you? No.
I agree, buddy. There's a lot more to being an efficient hunter and an effective killer than shooting your bow. You have to understand the animal you're hunting, the animal you're pursuing. You yourself have to be an effective predator. You have to understand wind, stalking, thermals, animal behavior. If you're hunting herd animals, herd dynamics, time of the day, all that stuff, and just shooting your bow at a mannequin, it doesn't give you that advantage at all.
And
I
another,
know a lot of people who are subpar bow archers, but they are killers with a bow.
another thing too, the 3D has evolved into more of a game than it is hunting. Like I think as all of us grew up shooting 3D, or at least shooting at a target, they never had scoring rings. It was always a kill zone. And I think as the 3D game has evolved, so as the manufacturing, they've seen that. And yes, you can still go to a big box store and get 3D animals that have like the liver and the heart and stuff on there. But majority of the 3D targets now, um, they're not the same size. So they're going to like these 1/3 or not to scale animals because it saves money. So that also plays a big difference too. But the biggest thing is like it's more of a game than it is hunting. So yeah, I love 3D. I think it's great, but I definitely don't think it prepares me for the hunting season, other than like I said earlier, the reps.
Yeah. And I mean, it does give you the advantage of making difficult shots and harder shots, more hunt like scenario shots than just shooting at a static range, no doubt. I mean, when I do the 3D shoots, I like to mix it up a bit. I'll shoot off both knees. I'll shoot off one knee. Once in a while when we're messing around, I'll shoot off my butt and stuff like that, and just to make it harder. And it's fun, right? I mean, it's good to switch it up, and it's definitely shooting the 3D is a lot of fun. I mean, as a hunter, you get to challenge yourself in a different way than just shooting at a target or at a static range.
I agree with you guys. But if we go to the base of the question, does it make you a better hunter? I feel like it sharpens one of your tools.
That's your execution, probably.
Well, which is your execution. So in that facet, does it make you a better hunter? A little bit, because there's so many different aspects of hunting. Does it make you worse? No. I'm trying to contort my way around, because I do think that there is a benefit to it. But it's such a minute thing that I think you guys are right saying that it isn't important. But I think there is value to it.
Now, I think if you use 3D as a purely practice mode for hunting, you can definitely do it to prepare for hunting. You definitely can. Problem is, like guys like me and people like even Landon, I try to drag you into it, we turn it into a competition, and there again, purely hunting is different gear. I know you and I, as we get into September or even before that, August comes around, you and I do a lots of preparing for hunting together, but like my 3D setup isn't the same as my hunting setup per se. And so, but I mean, if I just didn't want to do competitions, I could definitely use 3D to prepare, but I just think in general it doesn't. So what you're saying is correct. Like, I don't have a lens in my scope. I don't have a verifier or a clarifier in my peep. It's a bigger peep. I have multi pins and maybe a short stab on the front, and I do run a small stab on the back, like small when I say like 6 inches on the back or whatever. So I would never. I personally don't. That's not how I do 3D. So
Well, I think 6 inches is pretty good.
I think
You-
6
you-
inches
you-
is a lot
you would.
myself as well.
As a guy that I run my hunting bow, and that's it. I don't have a specific target rig or anything like that. I feel like that's the only aspect, but I 100% agree with you guys. You can be the best 3D shooter in the world, even with your hunting bow. If you don't have everything else, it's not going to be beneficial.
I shoot my hunting setup for indoor. I shoot 300s with my hunting setup. I don't think shooting target. I mean, shooting your bow definitely does help. I mean, it helps for sure. Being more accurate is not going to be a bad thing. It's going to help you. I mean, the ability to shoot further away more accurately is definitely going to help. But that being said, there's so much that goes into bow hunting because a lot of people try it that are really good archers. And if I was to take out, I don't know, Matty Fullerton on an archery hunt, he's not going to be very good. But if I took him out to a 3D round, well, he's going to shoot lights out, right? So, I mean, there's
Yep.
just so much that goes into bow hunting that, that is beyond the ability to shoot well. Like I said, I know a lot of dudes that are not very good marksmen when it comes to archery, but they are absolute killer bow hunters.
yeah, I have a buddy that's from my hometown. I don't think that guy shoots a bow until archery season, and I bet it's like 2 or 3 arrows to make sure his bow is sighted in, and he's a killer. He's killed moose and elk with his bow, but I don't think he's ever attended a 3D shoot ever. And so I always wonder how he does it, but you're right about that. You know, Landon, I will admit, now that I was thinking about it, that the execution is the only way that, like, so when I go from my 3D competition to when, like, you and I grab our hunting bows and we're flinging arrows at dusk, watching the lighted knocks go all the way down to 100 yards, if it wasn't for that practice with my execution, I don't think I would be as good a shot with my hunting rig. So 100% I support what you said there, like the execution, and stuff like that. So I will back you on that.
Yep.
Well, Landon, I don't know what you said, but I'm going to disagree with you just to disagree with you. All right, moving on. Survival techniques. One thing every hunter should know. As we're getting into spring bear hunting, a lot of guys are heading into the backcountry. A lot of new hunters are testing the grounds with backpack style hunting. It can be quite overwhelming for the very first time. Muck, you remember, like, you are extraordinarily experienced when it comes to backpack hunting. You guided in BC for, what was it, 15 years?
Yep, 15 years, yep.
And so you have endless time in the BC backcountry. Thinking back, looking at it, what is one piece of survival technique that you had to know that you can account for that saved your neck more than once? Because you and I have talked about some stories that things got pretty hairy.
Mm-hmm.
I know a couple for myself, but what was one thing that you can accredit to, that's maybe kept you alive in the backcountry?
Well, I know you said one, but you really have
two.
You need two. Like two is, for me, two is essential. One, you have to know how to build a fire, and you have to know how to build some kind of shelter. Yes, you can survive with either or on their own, but depending on the situation, it could be tragic if you don't know how to do that. So you have to be able to have something in your pack that you can build a fire, because fire is warmth, and warmth will keep you alive. You don't have to eat for a week, but if you don't have warmth, you're gonna go to hyperthermia very quickly and you're going to succumb to the elements. But you also have to be able to get out of the elements to build a fire. And so those two go hand in hand. And I mean, if it's a clear sky and there's no chance of weather, you don't necessarily, you can build a fire on the side of a gravel bar or on the side of on a mountain, and you can get by. But most people perish when they don't have a shelter or a way of fire. So I don't ever go, my pack has always got dry way of making fire. Every pack I own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Those are actually my first two. I was going to say that a Ferris rod is something that is in all of my packs when I'm going at a distance from like.
Can you explain what that is for the people who don't know?
So essentially it's a piece of a chunk of ferrous metal, and it has a metal strike on it. So it can be completely submerged and it
Still create a spark.
exactly creates a spark. Embers come off it.
Do you use any sort of ignition enhancer, like fire starter?
So
Cloth, pellets?
yeah,
paste?
if I'm actually going on so if I'm backpack hunting and I know I'm going to be doing a fire, and I say backpack hunting, if I'm going half a mile off the road for a whitetail sit, I don't have stuff like this. People know where I am. I can, if something
Crawl
goes
out
bad,
if you need to.
exactly. If something
Roll
goes
out.
bad, yeah, people are going to know if I don't show up in 5 hours or after dark, something went seriously wrong. Anyway,
If I'm not out, I don't want to be out.
exactly. Exactly. But yes, when I'm doing backpack trips, I actually have you could buy those M&M tubes back in the day. I don't know if anyone remembers these things.
Yep.
The mini M&Ms, and it's essentially like a film canister from back in the day,
But longer.
It's pretty long. It's about 6 inches. And
More than enough.
more than enough. More than any man needs. Anyway, I would take cotton balls with Vaseline on them and stuff that baby full. And one cotton ball that you pull out of there with Vaseline, it will burn for quite a duration of time.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was guiding in the mountains of British Columbia, we didn't have like the fancy strikers and stuff like that, but I know of at least 2 times mountain goat hunting where I literally got stranded on the mountain where if it wasn't. But what we used to do is, because we had sandwich bags and stuff like that for our clients to make lunches, I always had paper towel. And then what I did is before I always went out on a hunt, I would make sure that I collected a bunch of sawdust, because in a camp you always have lots of sawdust, and then I would dip it in diesel fuel, and then I wrapped it in that paper towel and then put it in a Ziploc bag. And that's how I got almost every one of my fires started back. That was back in the day. I mean, they definitely advanced into fire starting, but that's because even if it was a little bit damp, that diesel fuel combined with the paper towel would start fire. But I always kept it dry in a Ziploc bag, so I never had to worry about it getting, rain coming into my pack and stuff like that. But that's how I used to do it, was diesel fuel or sawdust soaked in diesel fuel with combined with paper towel.
Yeah, I want to add, before I cut you off, Kev, I want to add one thing that came in handy for me when we killed an elk in the bush a pretty far ways back, and I didn't have that fire starter. Everything was damp, but I always like to keep duct tape wrapped around my Nalgene or wrapped around my trekking pole. And if you peel duct tape off, duct tape is extremely flammable. So
Good
it was
tip.
it was a great fire starter, and you don't even notice it's there. So yeah. Write that down.
I mean, tinder fire works good as well. It's like a rope. You can you don't need a lot of it. You can cut it. That's what I do. I slice mine into little chunks, and I keep it in a small Ziploc bag. I put that in my backpack, and it starts like you wouldn't believe. If you don't have that, in BC, you can find something look underneath the trees. If you're hunting in the wintertime, look in those tree wells, find some needles, stuff like that. That stuff burns fast and good, and make sure you get some wind on it. But I agree. The number one thing anybody should know when heading into the backcountry is how to start a fire without, without a blowtorch or without some sort of mechanical aid. Just having the ability to start a fire, because you guys touched on that. Understanding waypoints and how to read navigational waypoints like a compass is a big one too. I always carry a compass in my pack. I also carry a paper map because I'm so heavily reliant on Onyx on my phone, my InReach, that if the batteries die, my phone gets wet, I lose my phone, something bad happens, I can still figure out how to navigate myself out of the backcountry with a simple compass and a map.
Yeah. That's a good one. Around here in the forest up north, it is extremely easy to get turned around to the point where you don't know which way, like especially once the sun dips down, it is very easy to find yourself not knowing what direction you're in. So
Yeah, well, even like bear hunting, where we bear hunt in Manitoba, you get in that bush, man, I could walk into it, I could turn around, and I have no idea which way I just came in. Because once that bush closes on you, you have absolutely. It's not like when you're walking through a dry forest and you can actually see your footprints, right? You're actually scuffing up the underbrush and stuff like that. Yeah, it's gnarly, and there's no elevation either, so you can't just I get up to this hill and figure out a waypoint or which direction I'm going. You're in it. You're in that thick stuff. It's wild, easy to get lost for sure.
Yeah. So even looking at the moss where it's growing on the tree to, give you some sense of direction, little things like that, and making sure you're decently prepared that way with a general knowledge base. Cause it can get pretty hairy.
I will say this, that navigation, regardless of what method you're using, is a perishable trait. I'll give you an example. When I was a guide, we would tie our horses up and we'd go hunting sometimes for the whole day, but then we have to find that spot where we tied our horses up. And it used to amaze the hunters how us guides could just get right back to where the horses were tied up and get back to camp safely without bumbling too much. Now I go to Manitoba and we hunt bears. Like you said, Kev, I could be in that bush for 15 minutes and I could be off track. It's just because it's a perishable, trait to be able to navigate properly if you don't have electronics. And really, in the bush, it's really hard to have unless you have a GPS on in your hand. It's hard. So, just people need to know that just because you did 15 years ago, you could go in the bush. I'm telling you, it's different.
Yeah, and understanding a little bit layout of your land, like do some homework, figure out, if you're going hunting in a new area, especially, go online, Google Maps, look at some paper maps, figure out the topography and kind of the unique features of that area, where your car is going to be in comparison to some lakes that are up there. So if you do find a lake, you could be like, oh, well, the lake's here. I know my truck, the sun's setting over here. My truck's got to be over that way somewhere, right?
Mountain hunting,
and if your truck is there, exactly.
Mountain hunting is so much different because you can just get elevation and get your bearings. But when you're hunting in the bush in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, or in the lowlands, it's completely different monster. Like when you killed your bear, Kev, when you guys were skinned it out, when was it Derek and I that came then found you guys? When like Landon and I know that area like the back of our hands. But when I tried to walk back to the bait where our or the ravine where our quads were, I easily could have got, if it wasn't for that big beaver dam slough, if it wasn't for there, honestly, I was so bent around, and luckily I saw that opening and went there, and I'm like, where are we? And we had to go all the way around. I had never been on that side except for when Landon and I were doing some scouting. So that's how quickly we got, you know what I mean? I'm sure you guys felt that when you got packed out too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we did a couple, had to look at our phone a few times. Luckily we all had Onyx, so It was easy, but that's what I mean. Like sometimes, if something happens, your battery dies or your phone dies or you lose it. It doesn't do you any good. So you gotta understand and you gotta be cognizant of where you are at all times.
Can I just add one more
Yeah,
point?
hit it.
So here's a tip to go along with the fire starting and stuff like that. If it's getting late, more people die trying to pound through, bumbling their way to where they think they're going. The best thing you can do is just hunker down, build a fire, and wait for the next day. More people die in the mountains, especially when they think that they can just, I can just pound through and get back to camp, and they get so disorientated. They fall in some cases when you're on mountain hunting, you literally fall off the edge of the mountain. But point is if, like say Manitoba, if you just hunker down, build a fire, you'll stay warm and safe. But if you start bushwhacking, that's where people get into trouble. So don't do that.
Yeah, if you're not following a GPS, a landmark, or a road, just hunker down for the night.
Yep.
You'll be fine. The bears, they're going to know you're there. They're going to stay away from you for the most part. Unless you're cut or you're bleeding, then you might have some issues. But in that case, if you can, try to get up high. Put yourself in a position where there's only one way out and you're not exposed. Up a tree would be great if you could. Sometimes that's not possible, but that's a good point, Muck. Taxidermy. Taxidermy, like everything in life, is going up in price. I know myself, I've definitely cut down on the shoulder mounts I'm getting done each year. Justifiable inflation or just pure price gouging? Why don't you guys let me take this one first?
Yeah, I think you're in a really good state, Kev, with some recent unfolding events.
So I'm going to tell a little story. So in 2024, I go hunting with Landon and Muck, and I shoot a bear. And we call a taxidermist that was friends with some people that we knew out there. He comes up. He, first of all, he charges me $200 to skin a bear, which was supposed to be included in the price, which wasn't. Then he gave me a price sheet for what he charges per square foot for a bear rug. No problem. Okay, little high, but he's already there. We agree to it. So I said, no problem. A year goes by. Don't hear nothing from him. A year and a half goes by. Don't hear anything from him. Almost 2 years now go by, and I hear from him. Says he's working on the rug. Rug's going to be done anytime. I'm like, okay, great. So he sends me a bill. Now, I already paid him $900 plus the $200 cash, which wasn't included. He's charging me an extra $2,000 on top of the $900 for a bear rug. And the price that was originally quoted had been per square foot that was talked about was crossed out, and it was upped $100. How do you like them apples, Lando?
Well, I feel like if you bid a job at a price and that price is agreed upon, it doesn't matter if it takes you 3 years to do it and say inflation is 1,000%, you agreed upon a price. And you have to honor that price.
And I understand if the tannery costs more money. Okay? It didn't cost $1,000 more money.
I'm with you, Landon. Like Kevin, 100% you got shafted because you agreed on that price. And had he done the work right away, that price would have, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
not my fault he took so long to do it.
That's right. And the fact that he scratched it out and jacked it up, to me, is despicable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the way I feel. It's like, you know what? If you hadn't taken so long to do it, this price should be, like, if this is your new price now, that's irrelevant because you've been sitting on it for so long. There was no reason you couldn't done it. Now, even if there was a legitimate reason you couldn't do it, you got too busy, you had health issues, whatever, you should still do it for the price, X price that you quoted.
Yep, 100%.
Or at least that you told me. And if you know what, if you said, hey, Kev, The tannery cost an extra $200. I would have said, you know what, that's cool, dude. But don't just cross it out and say, here's the bill. And then to just plainly say to me, I never quote my jobs. The price is what it is.
Yeah.
And actually, even at the time, because I was there with you, even at the time, he wasn't sort of transparent with remember the price? Because he give you one sheet and then he came back and said, oh no, this is a new sheet. Mm-hmm. And so it actually changed even when we were there.
Yeah. And so if you were to calculate the price off of his first price, that bear would have worked out to about $800 for a rug. Mm-hmm. Then he said, no, this is actually the price, so it's this much. That being said, that still would have worked out to about $1,700. To charge an extra $1,000 on top of what it is now, nearly, it's basically $3,000 for a bear rug. And it's not like, I don't want to sit here and criticize. Like, I mean, I can. I probably could have done just the same job. Like my soft tan, you've seen the soft tan up here. I could turn that into just as good as a rug.
I was just going to say, like, on back to the main question at hand, justifiable inflation or price gouging. I think that ties really good to that point. There is a handful of guys that I can think of the top of my head that are within, a quick drive distance, and they are top tier taxidermists. They also charge an absolute premium, because if you go to someone that is at a lower price point, you are getting a lower quality of mount. Mm-hmm. And it's like those guys know it, because they're getting people from across the continent, even across the world, they're sending stuff to them to get done. You know what?
And know what? You know what? If from the time I took the rug to you to the time you get really good, or say you got a lot better in those 2 years, that is irrelevant. It doesn't mean you charge me what your new price is. If the price, when we discussed this in 2024, and you said, okay, first of all, you said this isn't the price, this is the price. And I said, okay, whatever, you're here, you can do it, no big deal, right? You already drove up here, you're already here doing it. We'll just do it this way. Mm-hmm. At least just stick with that price.
Well, I just can't, and it's not like you didn't fulfill your obligation from the hunter side of it. You paid him a deposit. You actually, you and I talked, you checked in with him after year one, and he said, oh no, I'm far behind because I remember you and I talking about it.
Yeah.
So it's not like you didn't do your obligation from the hunter side. I mean, and then here's the other thing I remember you telling me, he charged you for stitching, and he's the one that frickin' skinned it.
Yeah, he charged me $150 a leg for stitching. And the thing is, we didn't even, when we dropped the bear off, when he started, I paid him $200 to skin the bear. The bear hadn't even been cut yet. Like, we didn't even skin the bear. It was already.
He was adamant about doing that himself, was he not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I paid him $200 cash for it. He wanted it, and I was like, well, I mean, we could have just did this for $200. It was supposed to be included in the price. So I paid him $200 cash for that, and then he charged me $150 a leg for extra stitching, which he skinned the bear.
That's unbelievable. So that's gouging.
And then I paid him $900 deposit, and I said, well, this is pretty much half, according to your sheet. We're going to calculate this to be a 6.5 foot bear. There you go, right? No problem. And again, it's crossed off, and a new number written in there, and a bill that's 3 times as much than the deposit.
So
plus
when taxes. I got like some work done, I typically I typically try to pay in advance because I don't want to run into that. Mm-hmm. But then they also, when you do that, they take forever.
And not only that, I don't mind paying advance to my taxidermist guys in town that live here in Kelowna that I know and that I've worked with for years, right? I have 2 guys that I work with all the time. They're great guys. They know me well. Even if I didn't pay them, they wouldn't care. But I just don't like to have the cost, so I pretty much pay them in full. No problem. But I've never met this guy. I'm 3 provinces away. I just didn't feel like dishing
Yeah,
out a lot of
absolutely.
money.
But you know what? I want to say taxidermy in general, the last 4 years has been gouging. Because really, I mean, there are some materials in there, but it's minimal, you guys. It's a form, it's some putty, and it's their handiwork. So I'm not saying they don't deserve a raise for their labor or anything like that, but the same taxidermy when my dad got his big deer how many years ago till now is the same process. And so, yes, I know forms went up and stuff like that, but I really do think that the gouging is on their labor.
Oh,
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I mean, for the amount of and that is a good point, Muck, because it's not about my situation. This is about generalization of taxidermy. Taxidermy has gone up quite substantially in the last 5 years. It's gone up from $750 for a deer shoulder mount head to almost, that $1,650, $1,800. You're looking at $2,500 for a shoulder mount deer. Sometimes more if you want detachable antlers. Full mount, close to $5,000. I remember the last full mount animal I had was it the cougar or the goat? I think it was the goat. That was $3,500.
Mm-hmm.
A bobcat I had, stuff like that. It just, yeah, it. I do get that, times are changing and their price has to go up, but it just seems like it's gone up a lot of percentage in the last while. But I also feel if you're good at something, you have to charge accordingly. And some taxidermists are better at bear rugs than they are at shoulder mounts. Some are better at deer than they are at cats. Cats, I feel like they're the hardest.
Oh yeah. Yeah, their face in particular.
there's guys
Yeah.
that are absolute masters at doing cats and having their face look proper.
Mhm.
And then there is a ton of guys, man, that I do not know how it it leaves the shop looking the way it does. But I
So
mean,
what's your thoughts on that? Like I know specific people, very close people that have had cats done, and you look at them and you're like, dude, my 4-year-old could do a better job than that. Like
Yeah.
there should be some
I
almost work
wouldn't pick it
guarantee
up.
because if I did any work as a contractor in somebody's house and they came back and be like, that man, I could have did that for free. You shouldn't be expected to pay them. I don't see why that's any different.
I wonder how they can turn that out and know that it's a representation of their business. They have to know that it's not right.
I think a lot of people unfortunately have got into this that are just underqualified to do it.
Yep.
For sure.
Well, the point of entry is extremely low.
Yeah,
Right?
go take a course or don't and then just start doing it.
Yeah, buy a $25 license and start as a taxidermy business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That being said, I think to the point of this question and the pricing, yes, if you're skilled or good at something, you're gonna charge accordingly. But another thing where I think they have hunters by the short and curlies, so to speak, is it is a recreational sport.
Mm-hmm.
And they know that if a guy goes out and puts an arrow in a 200-inch deer and he wants it to look good, people are going to pay.
But I'll say though, Landon, like let's talk about that 200-inch deer or even Vico for that matter. Like, yes, I want to get it done, but I also want it to be representation of the animal I harvested. So if like you're going to go to the guy that is a bear specialist, but he's also an artist and everything that he puts out is amazing. So I mean, that I don't know if that's gouging or if that's just what their price is, but that I mean, the hunter has sort of has the right or not the right has the do his legwork and find that person that's good at, because I mean you're right, Kev, like some guys are good at deer, some guys are good at elk, some guys are good, not everybody are good at bears. I've had people refuse to do a bear because they say I just don't do good bears, and so you have to do
That
your
is the
own
way it should
homework.
be.
Yep.
That is the way it should be. If you ask somebody, they should just be honest with you. And they're like, no, I can do it. I'm not the best at doing these. I don't. I specialize in this. I specialize in doing brick. I don't specialize in doing tile or marble stone. Right? Just
I
be
think
honest with it. I think that will go a long way.
I think that's a level of professionalism that's really lacking, or maybe lack of confidence to admit that you're not.
Or
That's
just fear of
real.
losing work.
Take your pick.
Or you just don't, or you're just an ass and you just don't care and you want to practice. You're like, oh, this would be good practice for me.
You know what is really comparable, you guys? It's comparable to a tattoo artist.
Yes.
You can get somebody
Very.
that just does a shitty job, and we all have seen those tattoos. I have one. Or you can go
Great
to somebody
analogy.
that's a amazing artist, and you got to pay for the work they got done.
$100+ bucks an hour in the chair.
Right.
Yep. Interesting topic, man.
That is. I feel like we could go on this for a long time, but we're not going to. We have another question here. This is my absolute favorite piece of gear that we're going to talk about. What to look for in a Bino harness. I have more Bino harnesses than the listeners would believe. I literally have totes of Bino harnesses. I've tried there's a lot of Bino harnesses out there. There's a lot of Bino harnesses I've tried once and never used. I have a lot of Bino harnesses. What do you guys think? Who wants to hit this first? Mark, why don't you go?
No,
Okay,
Landon, go ahead.
You go.
Landon, you go ahead.
You do it.
Please
take the floor.
The best Bino harness is the one you forget you're wearing. And I found that one for me. And
Recently?
Nope. I have recently changed Bino harnesses and I am not digging it. But not to get on the topic of which brands and whatnot, I feel like it's all the way it's made up. For me, the side pouches are extremely important. How they
the side pouches on the Bino harness or the exterior pouches?
Yeah, not the accessory pouches, but the actual side elastic, and how like some of them are way too tight that you can't fit a release in, or you're fighting to get your wind checker out. And so, like, man, it's just a lot of personal preference stuff. Oh, so Kev's got the description here. He's got those side pouches. Exactly.
For those of you watching on YouTube, I am pointing to what Landon is talking about. This is the Kafaru. This is a very capacious Bino harness.
That is a really
big word, like scoop shovels.
Yeah.
And
what
do you think of those? We'll talk about those later. Later.
Anyway, yes. So another thing that Kafaru that you just showed has that's extremely important to me is front opening in comparison to the flip up lid.
Yes. I think that is a massive point. I mean, I'm going to let you finish your spiel, then I'm going to go. Because I don't want to convolute your opinion.
Another thing with that front opening is I like full containment. There's others on the market that have open sides where you can get dirt and snow blowing in. I don't like that. I like my optics to be as clean. They're going to get dirty, as clean as they possibly can while they're in there. And another thing is the bulkiness of if it has too much depth and you're going to shoulder a shotgun when you're turkey hunting, it just doesn't work. It's just a no-go. Yes. I could go on for a bunch of different things. I want to hear what your guys' things are. I feel like accessory pouches, you can change those. You can mix and match.
Very well.
I'm curious about magnets or no magnets.
I'm curious what Muck has to say.
Muck Simons.
Well, keep in mind when I was a mountain hunter guide, there was no such thing as those. So I
agree. I remember those times. Like we used to carry Bino harnesses with a strap.
Yep. And So
tuck them into your rain gear.
I'm not going to say they're new for me, but I haven't done mountain hunting in a long time. But what I will say is, like Landon, I agree, full containment is important. The accessory pouches, the rangefinder for sure, but other than that, most bino harnesses have on them enough to get you by. So full containment. And, for me, to be honest with you, the most important is the harness itself. Like, I don't like a bulky over my shoulder, around my back, uncomfortable. Like, it has to be lightweight so that it's in the front and it's accessible. And the only other thing is, when it comes to containment, if you bend over to either field dress your animal or just whatever you're doing, your optics better not fall out. And that is what it takes for me.
I like it.
Those are great.
All right. My
We've all
turn.
had binos fall. And it sucks.
Yes. I have actually lost a set of binos. I had to dig out when I was whitetail hunting. I had leaned over, binos fell out of my pouch, and I frickin' looked everywhere for them. I did find them, but it was
Out
not
of the
fun.
tree?
No, out of my bino harness because I didn't have them strapped.
Oh.
I usually have one strap on there, one safety. So for me, comfort, function, durability, price. That's what I look for in a bino harness. I like full containment. I like front flip lids. I like lots of room. I like pockets. I like the more pockets for me, the better, but I don't want a bunch of bulk on my chest. I love this Kafaru pack. You open it up on the lid. It's got room for my elk calls. I can put, what else I got in here? I got my glass cleaner right here. Cleans my glass, my optics. I can clean my spotting scope, my rangefinder, my binos. This also folds down and it will click underneath just like this. So if you're at a 3D shoot, you can just use them like this. This has a nice big front pocket. I can put my release in here and I never have to worry about it. The nice thing about that is when I fold it up, unlike the ones that are really tight, like that FHF or even that Vortex one, it's really hard to get that out of that pocket. And when you pull the one thing out, if you have a card reader or something else in there, everything seems to come with it. So I like this one. You can just flip it down. You grab what you need. It's nice. One thing I also like is a pocket on the back, because right here, as you can see, in BC, you always have to carry your tags. I have my tags in a Ziploc bag. Landon and I went through this when he was here. He was actually blown away by our system. I had to get replacement tags because mine were lost in the mail. It was kind of an inconvenience, but anyway.
Yeah.
Side pockets, like Landon said, these are a must for me. I got flagging tape. I got wind checker on this one. I have my Leatherman with my tool. On my little pouch, I have a headlamp in here. I have a lighter. And then rangefinder, as always. And my rangefinder is on a tether all times. That way, when you're glassing, you can just drop it. And my binos, these are brand new. I just got these today. These will be tethered to one strap. And the straps themselves, I like lots of adjustability. I like my bino harness sitting high. I don't like it sitting hanging down on my paunch. I like it up tight on my chest. So having the ability to close it tight, the straps have a lot of movement in room. Those are a must for me, and a well-cushioned back as well. And it is nice if it doesn't cost $500 for a bino harness. This one is $300 Canadian. I feel like that is a well-priced bino harness. This is probably the best bino harness I've had. It also has Molly at the bottom for bear spray, which we will all need when we go hunt mountain goats in August.
I think at that price point, and he's talking about the Kafaru Deluxe bino harness, I believe, with all the accessory pouches, because most of them don't come with all the accessory pouches. That's typically like $100+ charge per pouch. That's a pretty good price point.
Yep.
Yes.
I would say one thing that the one harness that I really like using, it came with a rain fly that tucks into a little pouch at the very bottom, which I never thought would be. I thought it would be more of like a kind of a gimmick. But when you are in a tree stand or cruising around in the forest and it's torrentially downpouring, it's kind of nice having your bino harness stay somewhat dry.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
added
One
feature.
thing about this Kufaru pack is it is heavy. You do sweat. If you're a sweater, you might find it a little warm. I've tried the FHF fob. I've tried that new Vortex one. I've tried old Vortex ones. I've tried. Oh man, I have Badlands. I have Mystery Ranch. I have. If there is a Bino harness, I've probably tried it. So far, this is probably the one that checks all the boxes for me. I feel like it's really hard to get a Bino harness that has everything you want built into one unless you're building it yourself.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. It's a lot of good points.
Okay, last question for the experts.
Muck.
Judging bears. Let's talk judging bears.
Well, the
What
only way that you're gonna judge bears properly is to get your ass in the stand and watch bears. If you are if you're an antsy hunter that wants to shoot the first thing that walks in, you're never going to be able to field judge bears. You have to watch them and learn them. That's that end, full stop. When it comes to bear hunting, sexing them or field judging them, you have to look over bears in order to do that. I mean, a great big one comes in, you're going to know what a great big one is. A really small one comes in, you're going to know what a really small one is. But it's that 150 to 350 pound bear where people screw up so much. And the only way you can do it is if your ass is in the stand and you don't shoot the first thing that comes in.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
I mean, obviously there's techniques to field judging them, but
there's techniques, but that is a really good point. Like, I mean, I think a lot of people, especially if we're talking baiting and people that haven't experienced it, they see a bear come in and they get fired up, don't see cubs with it, and let her go. There's a lot of things over the years that I feel like it's almost became second nature. I really actually enjoyed our hunt last year. Sitting with Pete, who's never sat over bait, sitting with Derek, that was his first time, and just referencing all the things that a guy looks for. One thing that most guys are shocked about is the wrist detail on the front legs. I don't know if you call that wrist or ankle, if you will.
ankle.
On the front, how much smaller it is on even like a very similar body size sow compared to a boar. Like, it is that taper down on the wrist or ankle on the front, if you will.
Let's
it's
call wrists front, ankles back for
Thank you.
reference.
Yeah. The wrists, they're tiny wrists. Their paws, the more mature a bear is, especially a boar, they start to curl in. And they walk with a pigeon toe. And I think, there's a lot of things that I'll let you guys touch on. But one thing is you can tell a slight difference in a bear just by the way he approaches, or even if you're spot and stalking at a distance, the way they walk, they have a swagger about them.
I've hunted bears for a long time, spot and stock in British Columbia, a lot longer than I have hunted bears over bait. I am without a doubt far superior at judging bears now than I was before Muck invited me out to Manitoba to hunt with you guys. 100% better at judging bears. I feel now I look for those little things even at 300-400 yards away. I'm pulling my spotting scope out. I'm looking at their snout, looking at their ears, their forehead, looking at their chest, their body, looking at their, all these telltale signs that make the difference of a 350 plus pound to like the 285, 275 to 350. That's the area where you get the most confusion. It's really hard to judge bears, especially at a distance. And that's where you get a lot of ground shrinkage on bears, guys. You know, in that size, guys think, oh, that's a good bear. But, you know, until you get, you know, and then when you get up to, you're like, oh, it's a lot smaller than it seemed. And using other things for reference too. That's one thing, you know, that's one thing I think I took away from hunting with you guys in Manitoba is you always use the barrel as a reference. Well, apply that to stumps and landmarks and stuff at 300-400 yards away. You're still looking through your spotting scope. You're getting a good look, right? For the most part, you can tell how, you know, how big, you know, how big that stump is, you know, stuff like that, landmarks like that. Ear size too. Are the ears where the ears are in proportion to, you know, the eyes on the head, how long their snout is, their shoulders, all that
Yeah.
stuff. And even I think the biggest thing is just the way they walk.
Yep.
They walk in big dick swinging.
Yeah, they got swagger.
So when you're looking, like, it's so important, like it's really hard even for experienced hunters to try to nail down like a 300 to 400 pound bear. So it's the totality of everything. It's like the stuff you just explained. We're looking at that every aspect of it, because like Lannon's right. Like for me, the ankles are probably the one that I use the most to sex the animal. That's and like I'm not opposed to harvesting sows, especially dry sows, but I'd rather get a mature boar. So as soon as I look at their wrists, if it tapers down, like Lannon said, even like we've had some 400-pound sows and we haven't harvested them, but I mean, if they were, whatever. But my point is as soon as I look at that taper, then I know. But let's say it does have a nice, because a boar will be straight right down to his feet. Whereas a sow tapers, whereas a boar doesn't do that. Even the 200-pounders are straight down to their feet. They're like almost like 2x4s, and they're thick all the way down. But then once I look at that, and I'm like, oh, that's got to be a boar. Then I look at his eye, his head, and I look at his ears, and if there's a crease, and then I look at his shoulders, and where the live weight comes from is you have to take the like his belly and stuff like that into consideration, because like Lannon's 500-pound chocolate bear, like he wasn't fat like my big bear was, but he was super muscular. And so, but you don't know that obviously when you're looking at them. So you have to look at their belly, how big's their belly for live weight, and how long are their legs compared to how they're off the ground. And there's so many things to do that. But where we even experienced bear hunters like that is really hard to pinpoint a weight when you're dealing with a 300 to 400-pound bear. Like 500-pound bear, they just look enormous. They look like a small little car coming through there. And like Lannon said, they're so pigeon-toed that they walk with such a weird gait. But that 300-pound bear looks like a 400-pound bear if you don't really know what to look for. And so that's where that field or that ground shrinkage comes from, Kev. And keep in mind, most of the time we're judging out of a 15-foot high stand. Whereas if you put us on the ground, those bears look 100 pounds bigger instantly because they're on the level with you, and they look tall and they look heavy. So, you got to keep that in mind too. Like, and one other thing too, like what I automatically do when I'm field judging animals is I realize if the bear's by itself, it's not a cub. And I mean, a cub's a cub. You'll know a cub. But my point is if it's a bear by itself, it's at least 1.5 to 2.5 years old. And the rule of thumb is it's 100 or 50 to 100 pounds per year until they get kind of to a certain age. But so you get what we call a teenager bear come in. We're talking a 200-pound bear for sure. So then it just goes up from there. And yeah, sometimes like I know Lannon, we've saw guys that shoot bears at our camp that we say, oh, that's a 325 pound bear, and then we put him on the hook and he's only 275. Because I mean, it's really hard to tell with those bears, right? And so, but like what I always tell everybody is when you see a big bear, you might not know the live weight of it, but you'll know it's a big bear. And there's so many different things that come into the play, like size of the head and blah, blah, blah. But that's how we do it. I look at his ankles, his head, and then his body. That's kind of what I do. And if they don't sort of all check the boxes, I let them go.
Mm-hmm. Touching a little bit more on the head judging, or if you're going for skull size, obviously the most defined thing that you look for on a boar or a mature boar is you try and look for a crease. There's a lot of really good, like Boone and Crockett sized bears that don't have much of a crease.
Yeah.
So one thing like that I would say is a big standout for me that actually helps lots is on a side profile. If you look at their muzzle, it doesn't really coming down from their eyebrow down to their nose where the color changes. It's not very sharp. It's kind of like a mashed in snout, and the snout in depth from the top of their snout to their bottom jaw, it is very thick. It doesn't point. Mm-hmm. And you can tell a bear, even with just a side profile image of the head, that it is a more mature boar just by that thickness.
It looks more blunt.
Exactly. Yep. Kevin actually showed me a great picture. The bear on his camera was maybe 5 yards away from it, and it's just a perfect side head profile, but you can tell that is like an upper 300 to 400 pound bear. It is a good bear.
Yeah. Big bear. Love big bears. Excited. All right. Hopefully that helps everybody with any questions you have. Remember, make sure you guys get comments in. If your question or comments picked, you're going to get in on the prize. Mm-hmm. And please head over to our podcast channel. Just actually go over to huntsource.net, find everything over there, and make sure you follow us on Instagram. What's your handle again? Muck _?
Yep, Muck_Simons.
Right. Landon Fiddick, Kevin Altoy on Instagram. Okay, guys, it's been a slice. Until the next one.